My name is Elise, and I'm 30. I was balancing on one crutch, blocking my front door with my body. My sister Diane tried to shove past me, dragging her screaming 6-year-old. "Our flight is in 4 hours, Elise. Stop being selfish," she shouted. I looked down at my leg, encased in plaster from a shatter break only 3 days ago. I looked at the suitcases she expected me to ignore. Then I looked her in the eye. "If you leave him here," I said, voice shaking, "I'm calling the police." She froze. She thought I was the family doormat. She was about to find out I'm a trip hazard. "Hey friends, it's late afternoon. Have you done a lower back stretch yet? Don't let stiff joints in cold weather mess with your evening. Go on, switch on Do Not Disturb, and let's get into this story." It had actually started as a decent day. Not amazing, not a fairy tale, but decent. I'd managed to get a last-minute appointment at the salon on the high street. Nothing dramatic. Just a trim, a bit of shaping, some layers to make me look like I'd slept more than 4 hours a night. I'd been putting it off for weeks because work had been relentless. I'm a project manager at a marketing agency, not glamorous, not the sort of job that comes with fancy lunches and pretending everything's perfect. But it pays the bills. I'm good at it. And most days that's enough. I live on my own in a modest one-bed flat in Greater London. 3rd floor, no lift. The sort of place you don't notice is a problem until you're hauling shopping up the stairs or trying to do it on crutches. I left the salon feeling lighter, like I'd had a reset. The sky was thick with grey cloud, the kind that sits low and makes the whole street look tired. But I didn't care. I caught my reflection in a shop window and thought, for the first time in ages, I looked all right. Then I turned the corner and stepped onto a patch of pavement that looked wet. It wasn't wet. It was ice. 1 second I was walking, the next my feet went out from under me, and I went down hard on my right side. There was a crack, or maybe it was inside my head, and then pain shot up my leg so fast it made me feel sick. "Oh, love, are you all right?" a woman said, rushing over. I tried to sit up, tried to put weight on it. I couldn't. A hot, blinding pain tore through my leg, and I sucked in a breath so sharp it hurt my throat. "I think I've done something." "Don't move," a man said, crouching beside me. "That doesn't look good." The woman introduced herself as Liz, and the man was her husband, Dave. They were the sort of people you meet for 5 minutes and remember forever, simply because they decide you matter. Liz took one look at my face, then at the way my leg lay, and said, "We'll take you to accident and emergency. You're not getting a bus like that." I tried to argue, because that's what you do when you've been raised to be small and grateful and not a bother. But my hands were shaking and I could barely think straight, so I let them help me into their car. At accident and emergency, everything moved quicker than I expected. Because it was clearly broken, they triaged me fast and sent me straight for an X-ray. Questions, more waiting, then a doctor with a tired face and kind eyes pulled up the image and pointed to it, like I might not have noticed the clean break. "You fractured your tibia," he said, "just below the knee. You're going to need a cast and you'll be off that leg for 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. I stared at the screen like it might change if I squinted. My stomach sank because I already knew what that meant. Not just pain and inconvenience, it meant my whole life would have to shift. They put me in a splint first, then later a proper cast. The whole thing felt like being wrapped up in something that didn't belong to you. They gave me pain relief that dulled it a bit, but it was still there, pulsing in the background. When it was finally done, I looked down at my leg, now enormous and stiff, and just let out this quiet, defeated breath. Liz squeezed my shoulder. "You're going to be all right, love." And I nearly cried at that, which was ridiculous. She'd known me less than an hour, and she'd already shown me more care than my own family usually managed in a year. The hospital arranged a taxi home. Getting into the building was one thing. Getting up to the 3rd floor was another. Every step on the stairs felt like a negotiation between my arms and my dignity. By the time I got to my door, I was sweating, shaking, and furious with myself for living somewhere without a lift. Inside, my flat felt suddenly hostile. Everything was too far away. The kettle might as well have been in another room. I rang work first. "Els, what on earth happened?" my manager said as soon as I explained. "Slipped on ice," I said, trying to sound like I wasn't on the verge of tears. Broke my leg. Doctor says it'll be weeks. Right, he said immediately. Don't even think about the Jenkins account. We'll cover it. You focus on getting better. We'll get you set up to work from home when you can. Relief hit me so hard it made me dizzy. Work, at least, wasn't going to punish me for being human. Then I tried to make myself something to eat, and reality arrived. Standing at the hob was exhausting. Balancing on one leg while holding a plate was a terrible idea. I ended up with crackers and cheddar and a glass of water I'd spilled twice before I managed to drink it. After that, I thought I should probably tell my parents. Not because I expected comfort, but because it felt like the sort of thing you tell people who are meant to care. I rang. No answer. Of course. So I sent a message instead. Simple, neutral. Hi, slipped on ice today and broke my leg. I'm in a cast for 6 to 8 weeks. I didn't expect much back. Still, when my phone buzzed 20 minutes later, my heart did that stupid, hopeful little jump. It was Mum. Elise, you're always so careless. This is what happens when you don't watch where you're going. We can't come round because we're busy with the builders at Diane's. Be more careful. That was it. No, are you in pain? No, do you need anything? Just blame. And an excuse that wasn't even disguised. I stared at the message until the words blurred, then put my phone face down like I could physically shut it out. I don't know why I kept expecting them to be different. They never were. Growing up, it was always Diane first. Diane got the bigger bedroom. Diane got the best presents. Diane got the soft voice and the second chances. I got told to stop being sensitive, to stop making a fuss, to be helpful, to be grateful. Diane was the golden child. I was the spare. I'd learned to live with it most of the time, but every now and then it still stung, sharp and fresh, like you'd only just realised you'd been left out. That night I managed to shower with a plastic bag and sheer stubbornness, brushed my teeth and got into bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the muted city noise through the window, and told myself tomorrow would be better. I'd work it out. I always did. Then morning came, and Diane rang. That's where we started. I'm bringing Toby over, she'd said. After she hung up, I just sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at it like it had insulted me. Toby is 6. He's bright, loud, curious, and completely feral when he feels like it. The last time he'd been at my flat, he'd drawn all over my living room wall with permanent pens. He'd emptied an entire bottle of washing-up liquid onto my kitchen floor to make it slippery like ice. And he'd tried to flush my jewellery down the loo because he wanted to see if it would go to the sea. And that had been when I had 2 working legs. 15 minutes later, Mum rang. Elsie, she said, using the childhood name she only ever used when she was about to tell me off. What's wrong with you? How can you refuse to help your sister? Mum, I said, slow and clear, I've got a broken leg. I can barely make myself a drink without nearly falling over. You're making excuses, she snapped. You can sit on the sofa and watch him. He's not a toddler. You want me to keep up with him on crutches, I said. Cook, clean, keep him safe, stop him wrecking the place when I can't even carry a plate properly. There was a pause, like she was genuinely trying to understand the words. Then she said, Family helps family. I laughed once, a short sound I didn't mean to make. Really, I said, because none of you have asked how I am. None of you have offered to bring me shopping or even check I've got food in. The only thing you've done since I broke my leg is tell me I'm careless and demand I look after Diane's child. Silence. Then, cold as a slammed window, those are your problems. Something in me went quiet. Right, I said. Then Toby is Diane's problem. Please don't ring me about this again. I hung up, turned my phone off and sat there in my small kitchen, shaking with my leg throbbing and my throat burning. It took me nearly 20 minutes to make a warm drink. Kettle, mug, milk, everything was slow, everything was hard. And while I stood there balancing and grimacing, I realised not one person in my actual family had offered to help me with anything. They only ever rang when they wanted something. That evening my doorbell went. I dragged myself to the door, convinced it would be Diane, ready to dump Toby on me and storm off. But when I looked through the peephole, it was Rachel and Jess, arms full of bags. I opened the door, completely thrown. What are you doing here? Rachel stared at my leg. We heard you broke it yesterday. How? Jess rolled her eyes. Your manager mentioned it when I was on a call with him. He said you'd slipped on ice and I nearly fell off my chair. Why didn't you tell us?" Heat rose in my face. "I didn't want to bother you." "Bother us?" Jess looked like she might actually shout, then softened. "Els, we're your friends." Rachel barged gently past me. "Move. Sit down. We're taking over." They'd brought containers of soup, pasta bakes, sandwiches, fruit, snacks. The sort of food you can just grab and eat without standing for an hour. Jess filled my fridge like she'd done it 100 times. Rachel started wiping down surfaces, moving things closer to the edge of the counter so I could reach them. She picked up a pile of laundry like it was nothing. I sat on the sofa, leg propped up, watching them, and my throat tightened so hard I had to look away. "You didn't have to do this," I managed. Rachel glanced at me. "Stop it!" Jess popped her head round the kitchen door. "We did, and we're not leaving you to struggle." They cleaned my flat, properly, vacuumed, wiped the bathroom, took the rubbish out. The kind of care you don't even realise you're missing until someone gives it to you. When they were done, we ordered a takeaway and watched a film together, the three of us squeezed onto my sofa, laughing at something stupid and comforting. When they left around midnight, Rachel hugged me carefully like I was made of glass. "Ring us if you need anything," she said. "Anything." Jess nodded. "Don't be a hero." After they'd gone, I sat in my clean flat and just breathed. It was such a simple thing what they'd done, and it hit me, plain and undeniable. My friends were more family to me than my family had ever been. The next week crawled by. My leg was healing, but I was still clumsy and slow and easily exhausted. I got better at the crutches, though I dropped things constantly and muttered at my own cupboards more than once. Work was decent, letting me do what I could from home. Rachel and Jess checked in every day. Sometimes they brought food. Sometimes they just came round and sat with me, so I didn't feel so alone. My family didn't ring again. For a moment I thought maybe they'd finally accepted it. Then, exactly a week after Diane's first call, her name flashed up on my phone again. I answered because I don't always learn quickly. "Hiya, Elise," she said, bright and chirpy, like we were mates. "Diane," I said, flat. "So," she gushed, "it's our 10th anniversary next week. Can you believe it? 10 years. Anyway, Mark and I have booked the Maldives for 2 weeks. I blinked. "Right. It's going to be amazing," she carried on. "Beach, spa, the lot. We're leaving on Sunday." "Lovely," I said, and already my stomach was sinking because I knew exactly where this was going. "And we decided," she said, like she was sharing a normal household plan, "not to bother with a babysitter. Since you're at home anyway, you can have Toby for the 2 weeks." For a second, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. "What?" I said. "Oh, don't start," she sighed. "He's fine. He just needs meals and someone to keep an eye on him. You'll be sat at home." "I'm sat at home because I broke my leg," I said. "I'm recovering. I'm not available for childcare." "It's been what, nearly 2 weeks?" she snapped. "You'll be fine." "No," I said, firmer now. "I can't do it. I'm not doing it." Her voice shifted, sharp and ugly. "You are so selfish. Honestly, you've always been lazy, but this is unbelievable." I stared at the wall, my hand gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles hurt. "Why can't Mum and Dad have him?" "They're busy with the builders," she shot back. "They can't do everything." There it was. Again. Always something at Diane's, always more important than anything else. "And what about school?" I said. "You want me doing the school run on crutches?" Diane gave a dismissive snort. "It's term time. That's the point. The flights were cheaper. Just get him there and back. You'll manage." I went very still. "Diane," I said, steady, "you need to find someone else." "You're ruining everything," she shrieked. "We've paid for it." "That's not my problem," I said and hung up. Straight away, messages started coming through. "You're going to ruin our anniversary." "We can't get a refund." "What is wrong with you?" "Stop being so selfish." I didn't reply. An hour later, Mum rang. I answered because I wanted it over with. "What is the matter with you?" she demanded, voice already at full volume. "How can you do this to your sister?" "Do what?" I said. "Say no to looking after her child while I'm injured?" "You're sabotaging her anniversary trip," Mum hissed, "with your laziness." "It's not laziness," I said, and I could feel my temper rising. "It's a broken leg." "Family comes first," she said, like she was quoting scripture. I went still. "Family," I repeated. "Where was family when I was in accident and emergency? Where was family when I got home and couldn't even make myself dinner? Where were you when I told you I'd broken my leg?" A pause, then cold again. "Those are your problems." The anger that rose in me was so clean and clear it felt almost calm. "Then Diane's holiday is her problem," I said. "Don't ring me again." I hung up. The next few days were quiet, blissfully quiet. I started to believe they'd finally accepted that I meant it. Then Saturday morning came. My doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Rachel and Jess always messaged first. My heart thudded anyway as I dragged myself to the door. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. Diane stood there with Mark and Toby, who had his dinosaur backpack on and was clutching it like a shield. I opened the door, but I didn't step back. I just stood there, braced on my crutch, blocking the entrance. "What are you doing here?" I said. Diane smiled, bright and fake. "We're dropping Toby off. Our flight's tomorrow, and we've got last-minute bits to sort." "I told you," I said, voice tight. "I can't have him." Mark stepped forward, hands out like he was trying to talk me round. "Elise, come on. It's just 2 weeks. We really need this break. And I really need to recover," I said. "No," Diane's smile vanished. "You're being ridiculous. It's just a leg." I lifted my cast slightly as if she might have missed it. "It's a broken leg. I can barely look after myself." "We don't have anyone else," she snapped. "Mum and Dad are busy." "That's not my problem," I said, and I started to close the door. Mark put his foot in the gap. "You can't just leave us like this," he said. "I'm not leaving you," I replied. "I'm saying no." Diane's eyes flicked, calculating, and then she said casually, like she was testing how far she could push it, "Fine. We'll just leave him here in the hallway. You won't be able to walk away from that." Something in me went cold. "If you leave your child on my doorstep after I've told you I can't take responsibility," I said very clearly, "I'll call the police straight away. I'm not playing this game." Diane blinked. "You wouldn't?" "Try me," I said. Toby's face crumpled a little. He looked between us, confused and scared, gripping his backpack tighter. Diane's voice turned high and dramatic. "You're ruining everything. Our anniversary, our holiday." "I'm not being manipulated," I said. "You booked a 2-week trip without sorting childcare. That's on you." And then I shut the door. Not gently, not politely. Shut. I heard Diane's muffled shouting through the wood, the sound of her heel banging against the door, the sharp rise of Toby's crying. "You'll be sorry," she screamed. I stood with my back against the door, heart racing, stomach flipping, and for a moment I thought I might be sick. Then the noise faded. Footsteps. The stairwell door down the corridor. Gone. I made it back to the kitchen and did the only thing I could think to do. I made a hot chocolate. My hands shook so much I spilt cocoa on the counter and I didn't even care. Not long after, my phone started ringing. Mum. Ignored. Dad. Ignored. Messages stacking up. I didn't read them. Then Mum sent one long message. "Elise, you are a dreadful daughter. Your sister is devastated by your selfishness. They've gone on their holiday anyway and left Toby with us. Now we have to pause the builders because we're stuck looking after our grandson. This is all your fault. From today we don't want contact with you. You are no longer part of this family." I read it once, then again. And then, to my own surprise, I laughed. Not because it was funny, exactly, more because it was so predictable it almost felt like relief. They were cutting me off. That was meant to hurt. But all I felt was a weight lifting off my chest. I didn't hesitate. I blocked Mum's number. Dad's, Diane's, Mark's. Tap, tap, tap. It was strangely easy, like finally putting down something heavy you'd been carrying so long you forgot it wasn't meant to be yours. The next weekend my phone rang from a number I recognised. Auntie Linda. Mum's sister. We'd always got on, but she lived miles away and we didn't speak often. "Elise, love," she said, warm at first, then careful. "Your mum's been on the phone. She says you've been selfish. She says you've fallen out." I let out a slow breath. "Did she mention I broke my leg?" A pause. "You broke your leg?" So I told her. All of it. The slip. Accident and emergency. Mum's message. Diane demanding I mind Toby. The doorstep. By the time I finished, Auntie Linda sounded furious in that quiet, controlled way that means someone is properly appalled. "Oh, Elise," she said. "I'm so sorry. Your mum told everyone you'd refused to help for no reason." "I assumed she would," I said. "I'll put it right," she said, firm. "Not because you need anyone's approval, but because I'm not having her spread lies about you." My throat tightened again, but this time it wasn't pain. "Thank you," I said softly. "I appreciate it." After we hung up, I sat by my window and watched the evening sky over the rooftops. My flat was still small, my legs still hurt, but something inside me felt quiet, free in a way I didn't yet fully understand. The weeks passed. I healed slowly, then steadily. I started physiotherapy, which was painful at first, then oddly satisfying, like my body was learning how to be mine again. By the end of the second month, I was walking with only a slight limp. The doctor told me I could go back into the office, but to take it easy on the stairs. My first day back was more emotional than I expected. When I got to my desk, there were little welcome back signs stuck up like a primary school display. Someone had bought a cake, and in blue icing it said, "Welcome back, hop along." I stared at it, then burst out laughing. "We missed you," Jess said, giving me a careful hug. Rachel handed me a coffee. "The place hasn't been the same without you moaning about the staff kitchen." I took the cup and sniffed it. "Still tastes like regret." They laughed, and something warm spread through me. Work felt good, familiar, solid. The Jenkins account had been handled without me, but there were new projects waiting, and I realised I'd missed the simple rhythm of being busy for myself, not for other people's demands. A few days later, Auntie Linda messaged. "Had lunch with your cousin Emma, told her the truth. She sends her love." More messages followed over the next weeks. Relatives I barely spoke to reaching out, apologising for believing Mum's version, offering support. It was kind, it was strange. Their opinions didn't change my day-to-day life, but it did something else. It reminded me my mother didn't get to decide what was true just because she said it loudest. And while all that was happening, the people who actually mattered had been right there. Rachel and Jess, obviously, but others too. My neighbour, Mr. Chen, started bringing me a bag of shopping once a week while I was still struggling. No fuss, no speeches, just a knock and a quiet, "Got you a few bits, love." A friend from university posted me a care package with snacks and a book and a note that made me cry. Even the woman at the coffee place near my office kept my favourite muffin aside once I was walking well enough to pop in again. She didn't make a big deal of it. She just smiled and said, "Here you go, darling. Thought you might fancy it." One evening, about 3 months after the accident, Rachel and Jess were at mine for dinner. Rachel leaned back and said, casual but watchful, "Heard anything from your lot?" I shook my head. "Not since I blocked them. Auntie Linda says they're still telling anyone who'll listen that I'm the villain." Jess's eyes softened. "Does it still get to you?" I thought about it, and the truth surprised me. "Not like I thought it would," I said. "Once you accept they're not going to change, it hurts less. It's like the hope stops bruising you." Rachel raised her glass. "To toxic family members," she said, "may they stay blocked forever." We clinked glasses, laughing, and it felt light in my chest, like breathing without flinching. After they left, I stood at my window looking out at the city lights. My legs still twinged when the weather shifted, and sometimes I overdid it and paid for it the next day. But the pain was fading. And so was the old ache I'd carried around for years. For so long I had tried to earn my family's love by being useful. I said yes when Diane demanded it. I swallowed Mum's criticism. I made myself smaller so nobody could accuse me of being difficult. Breaking my leg had forced me to say no, and once I'd said it, properly, out loud, I couldn't pretend anymore. As winter softened into spring, I started doing things that were mine. I joined a book club that met on Wednesday nights, something I could never have done when Diane expected me on standby. I signed up for a weekend cooking class. I started dating again, cautiously, like someone stepping back onto a pavement after a fall. And I planned a solo trip to the coast for the autumn. Nothing extravagant, just a few days somewhere with sea air and quiet mornings, because I wanted to. Every now and then, I thought about Toby. He was a kid caught in the middle, and I didn't blame him for any of it. I hoped, genuinely, that someone in that house was kind to him. Maybe someday, when he was older, we'd have a relationship that wasn't filtered through Diane's entitlement and my parents' coldness. I'd like that. One Saturday in July, nearly 6 months after the accident, I was at a market and thought I spotted Diane in the crowd. My heart jumped in that old reflexive way. But when the woman turned, it wasn't her, and I surprised myself by feeling a flicker of disappointment. Some small part of me had wanted it to be Diane, turning up softened, apologetic, ready to admit she'd been out of order. But people like Diane don't do that. Not often, not without a reason. They go through life convinced they were right. And you know what? That was fine. I couldn't control what they said about me. I couldn't rewrite their version of the world. All I could do was stop living inside it. 2 weeks later, Auntie Linda rang again. "You'll love this," she said, half amused, half exasperated. "Your mum's telling people you begged her to forgive you and she nobly refused." I laughed, properly this time. "That's impressive. I haven't even unblocked her number." "I know," Auntie Linda sighed. "How are you, really?" I paused because the answer mattered. "I'm good," I said, and meant it. Better than I've been in a long time. After we hung up, I made myself a hot chocolate, still my comfort drink, and settled on the sofa with a book. My leg was almost fully healed now. My life wasn't perfect. Work was stressful sometimes. Dating was messy. My flat still needed a fresh coat of paint. But for the first time in my life, I felt peace. I wasn't waiting for demands. I wasn't bracing for criticism. I wasn't shrinking myself to keep other people comfortable. I was just Elise, imperfect, healing, and finally free. I didn't need their permission to live my life. I didn't need their approval to feel safe in my own home. And once I'd seen who showed up when it mattered, I stopped trying to earn love from people who only ever wanted my time